Episode 5, The Last of Us, was awesome. Great episode like all the previous ones. Similar to episode 3, we got a lot of backstory with a couple of characters who are not Ellie and Joel, in this case, Henry and Sam, who are great characters from the game who have they're kind of like blips on the journey that Ellie and Joel take through the game world, and it's also the same here in the show. Now, this episode was a slower episode than the previous ones, with the exception of perhaps episode 3, and it kind of has that same sort of slow build up to a finale that is just explosive and quite gnarly, but also very satisfying for those of us who have played the game. And especially for me, because I've been trying to balance a replay of the game with the show. So I'm sort of usually within a few days of the episode, I've been either I've just played that content a couple days before, or I'm just ahead of it and I'm about to play that content. So it's been very satisfying for me to sort of be able to see the stark contrast between the game and the show. It's been a lot of fun. In any case, this is my recap, review, the thoughts on the episode, so on and so forth. If you're new here, very important. I don't do spoiler free. So this is spoiler full. So if you don't want things spoiled, now is the time for you to walk away, go watch the episode, and come back. Now, usually I do these right after. I usually wake up early on Monday morning and review the show. And then, the episode's only been out for a few hours. In this case, the episode came out on Friday, and Chris and I didn't watch it until last night, Sunday night. I don't do Super Bowl stuff. So, um, also, this was the first episode where I didn't take massive amounts of show notes during the episode because I watched it with Chris, which I normally don't do. But since we watched it at night as opposed to 3 o'clock in the morning, Chris watched it with me, so I was able to get her perspective on things live. Um, in any case, we're going to dive into that. So if you like all that stuff, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Um, Support with memberships and stuff. We'll talk more about at the end about ways you can support. But in the meantime, let's get into the actual show notes. So let's give you a couple seconds here to walk away if you don't want spoilers. All right. I think that for me, the most interesting part of this storyline was diving into the Henry and Sam story. Because in the game, um, just like with the Frank and Bill thing, we get a slightly different version of the characters here, in the sense that Henry and Sam are a brother, yes, but in this case, Sam is, I think, younger than he is in the game, but also he'd suffered from leukemia. The idea here is that his illness is what provoked Henry to do the thing that has caused this crazy woman who's leading this resistance group who took out Fedra to hunt him down. And that's a story that is doled out over the course of the episode, where we come to find out that the reason that she's chasing him and wants him dead is because her brother was the leader of the resistance, and they view him as a collaborator because Henry was the one who put her brother in the hands of Fedra, and they executed him, I guess, in the jail cell. And the reasoning for that is because the only way to save Sam was to trade the leader into Fedra for the medicine that was going to cure Sam of his leukemia. Now, ultimately, by doing it this way, by giving them this backstory, it made the end for Henry way more powerful than it was in the game, because they do meet the same end. Um, there's this sequence of events that happen, and we will get to that eventually through the review. But the idea that in the game we never had any reasoning beyond, oh my God, what did I just do? Whereas here we had, oh my God, I did all of these horrible things to save Sam, and in the end, none of it mattered. And now he's left with this huge weight, and he just can't handle it. So it added more nuance to the backstory of Henry, and I'm very grateful for that because I think that these are the things that help impact Joel and Ellie and to a lesser degree and who they become throughout this game and into The Last of Us 2. In any case, um, we find out that that's the backstory for Henry, and that's why Kathleen wants him so bad. So there's a lot of that, and it's good storytelling. It's all there to sink your teeth into. Um, but at the end of the day, this is the Joel and Ellie journey, and eventually we do swing back around to the current uh, era for them. And the idea here is that Henry can help Joel and Ellie get out of the city because he knows all the ways to go. And Joel is a survivor and has the you know the not just, I don't want to say military expertise because he didn't, but it was a he has the capability of doing things that Henry can't, or Henry doesn't know if he can because he hasn't had to before. He saw Joel take out those guys and he's like, you can save me, you can get me and my brother out of here. So going together, they work their way through. Um, and this is stuff that's very similar to the game in the sense that we go down into the sewers and we work our way through. There's the school that they find down there, which you find in the sewers as you're playing through. And then eventually you get out and we get into this sniper scene from the game. And that's all fairly accurate to the Henry and Sam storyline that went through. Now, the one thing they did change here is in the game, we met the bloater in the school with Bill. And in this case, they saved the bloater for the end of this episode. And it was very well done. But essentially, um, in the game, you work your way through this sequence. You go through the tunnels, you come out into this abandoned town, you're with Sam and Henry, and you're trying to get out, and then there's a sniper. You have to go take out the sniper out. When you get up to the sniper and you take the sniper out, you are then firing down onto the field as Henry, Sam, and Ellie are trying to escape as these crazy hunters are coming after them in trucks and everything else. In this case, it's the Kathleen, I think is her name, chasing after him, and she's gonna get Henry finally, right? Well, as they're doing this, there's all the stuff from the game, and then an explosion happens, and the earth caves in, and out of that cave in comes all the infected, which is sort of the backstory that they created for this show. Is that one of the reasons there aren't any infected in Kansas City is that Fedra drove them all underground 15 years ago or something. I think that's what they said in the show. And they have just been kept down there the whole time. And so they haven't had to worry about them up top. But now they come out. And in the game, I don't think you ever, it's just that they hear the commotion, they hear the shots, everything else, and they come running. And so you're not only defending Ellie and Sam or excuse me, yeah, Ellie, Sam, and Henry from the hunters, you're also protecting them from the undead. Not undead, the infected. In any case, there's an explosion, the ground opened up, and all the infected come out, and this is when we get the bloater. And it's still a scary scene, but it's not as scary as the game because Joel isn't the one who's facing the bloater. But I will say that Kathleen's protector, who's the guy who played Tommy's voice in the game, the actor, he's the one who gets his head ripped off by the bloater. And they don't do a close up of it, thankfully, because that would have been grotesque. But you still get this sequences, and as you're looking off kind of in the distance, and the bloater just reaches down and just rips his head off. And it's like, oh, I died to that bloater. Even this playthrough. Um, I died 3 times to the bloater in the school gymnasium before I finally was able to take him down. That fight is just intense. Um, Ultimately, we get to the next sequence where they're resting up in the house, and we find out that Sam got bit. And this one is a little different than in the game because Ellie is like she's trying desperately. She's like, my blood medicine, my blood can cure you. So she cuts her hand and like pushes her blood into the wound on Sam's leg, thinking that maybe her immunity can help cure him. Obviously, it doesn't. And we get the same end here that we got in the video game, which is they wake up in the morning, Sam attacks Ellie, they stumble out into the room. Joel goes to protect Ellie. Henry freaks out. Um, and in the midst of all the chaos, just the reaction is he kills Sam. And then in the aftermath of that, he just completely loses it and then turns the gun on himself and commits suicide. It was traumatic in the game, but here in the show, it was so much more impactful because of the backstory we had about him doing all the things that he did, becoming a collaborator, turning Kathleen's brother in, turning on all the people he knew and loved to save Sam. And they have this dialogue where he's questioning whether or not he's a bad guy with Joel, and this is earlier on in the show, before this happens, where he says, "The answer is easy. I'm the bad guy because I did a bad guy thing." And sort of his justification for everything he did was, "I'm going to do anything it takes to protect my loved one, to protect Sam." And that resonates with Joel because he still doesn't have a lot of feelings for Ellie, but he is starting to develop a bond, and he's starting to do anything it takes to protect her. And those of us who have played the game know where this is heading. I won't spoil, even though this is a spoiler full review of this episode, I don't want to spoil the whole thing for people who might not have played the game. But this message is very important for who Joel becomes ultimately in terms of, I'm going to do whatever it takes to save Ellie. That's a very important message. I'm going to do bad guy things to get there. So it's a very poignant message, and it's all about doing whatever you need to do in the name of someone you love. And this is the one of the reasons I think the Darth Vader journey, the Anakin Skywalker journey, has always been so important to me as a viewer. People like to complain a lot about the prequel series, the prequel trilogy, and I love it because it gives us the insight into that journey of Anakin Skywalker, and especially looking at the Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. Um, we're seeing this individual who everything he does is for his love of Padme, and especially when we get the follow-up series with Obi-Wan and just the broken figure that Darth Vader is, all because he did all these things for love, and he's still tormented by that. And that's a very important sort of message for what's coming down the pipeline for Joel. So a lot of backstory here in this episode, and to some degree, I apologize for the yawning, guys. That's what happens when you do these first thing in the morning. To some degree, there is a lot of rushing going on because obviously they're trying to do everything within 8 episodes. But it feels really good. I think that narratively speaking, this episode was a little bit of a mixed bag because we got some backstory, which for some people is going to be a takeaway because like it doesn't help Joel's journey, and doesn't it does it impacts Joel and Ellie's journey because it helps them understand that message of doing what it takes for the ones you love. But it also, I think, is just great backstory for people doing what it takes to survive in general. And how the Fedra of Kansas City were some of the worst out there, and raped, murdered, and pillaged their own people for 20 years before they rose up and cast off the shackles. And as a result of that, they themselves became this brutal, horrific group because of what had been done to them. And they are a product of their circumstances. So, yeah, chickens are crowing. It's early. So I need to go get some coffee made. In any case, 10 out of 10. Great episode for me. I loved it. Watching it through Chris's eyes was interesting because she was very torn by the Henry and Sam storyline because she hadn't seen episode 4 yet, so we watched episode 4 and 5 back to back. So she got this 2-part arc, it was done very well, and it was meant to be a 2-part arc, but she got to watch that 2-part arc in one sitting. And I think it was a little more impactful for her that way. And she's never played the game, so she didn't know what was coming. So it was, she doesn't get as emotional as I get when I watch shows, but she still walked away feeling like this was that was a sad storyline, is what she said. And I was like, well, it's true. It's very sad. So, in that case, if you also watched it, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, if you liked what you heard here today and you want to support, you could drop a super thanks on this video. You can also do super chats and stickers on live streams. Do memberships. There's 3 different tiers here on YouTube, starting at $2.99 a month. We have a Patreon page. Yeah, Discord channel as well. Check out the links below, and I'll see everybody in the next episode. Peace.